differentiate direct procurement from indirect procurement? Yusuf, can you tell me difference between direct? Yusuf, can you tell me the difference between direct procurement and indirect procurement? Yusuf, are you around? Hello, Yusuf. Yusuf, are you around? Hello, Yusuf, are you around? Hello, student, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Please, we can hear you.
Okay. So, our last time we ended at importance of operational procurement. Today we are starting from where we left our last meeting. So we are talking about characteristics of operational procurement. Characteristics of operational procurement, which is quite different from capital procurement. We have capital procurement, which is different from operational procurement. So let's start from capital procurement. Capital procurement refers to the acquisition of long-term, high-value assets that are used in an organization operations over many years. So anytime you are going to buy an item and the lifespan of the item are beyond 1 year, it means that item can be classified as capital procurement. If the lifespan of that item can go beyond 1 year, maybe the organization can use the item for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. That item is regarded as capital procurement. And most often, these items are bought once in a year or twice in a year, or maybe once in 5 years, because we don't use it almost all the time, or don't buy it almost all the time. They are regarded as what? Capital procurement. Examples of capital procurement that can be plant and machinery, vehicles, forklifts, buildings and construction works. All these items, we buy them once and we can use them for about 2 to maybe 10 years. We don't really buy them often. And then sometimes they are heavy and industrial equipment, power generators and transformers, computer hardware. All these items are regarded as capital procurement. What are some of the characteristics of this capital procurement? They are high monetary value. So something like a machinery or a plant, the value of plants and then generators are of high value. Their lifespan is what? Long, useful lifespan. It goes beyond 1 year. They use it maybe 2 to 10 years. So they have longer lifespan. And then they are infrequent purchase. We don't buy them frequently, like operational materials like paper, pen, and other things. Capital equipment or capital procurement, we buy them infrequently, and also requires management approval before we can buy these items. It requires management approval before we can buy these items. And anytime we are going to buy capital items, we need technical staff that can help us to draw the specification. As a mere procurement officer who has completed business school may not have the knowledge or capacity to draw a capital procurement or specify a capital procurement. So sometimes we need engineers to help us specify capital procurement, something like a plant or generators. We need technical people to help us. And sometimes when we buy capital procurement, it's not for resale. We don't buy this capital procurement and resell them. We buy them to help us to transform our raw materials into finished goods. Then there's another procurement known as operational procurement. Operational procurement is different from capital procurement. Operational procurement refers to purchase of routine, low value items and services that are required for day-to-day running of an organization. Operational procurement is all procurement items that are bought frequently, that are routine, that help organization to run their day-to-day activity. Something like pen is a operational procurement. A4 paper is a procurement, it's operational procurement. Receipt books, they are all part of operational procurement. We need this to enhance our day-to-day operational activities. So examples of operational procurement can be office stationery and printing materials. We can also have fuel and lubricant. Fuel and lubricant, they are all part of operational. We also have cleaning and sanitation services. Cleaning and sanitation services. We have spare parts and consumables. Spare parts and consumables. And then packaging material. So at the hospital level, operational materials can be plaster, gauze, syringes, gloves, and other activities. These are the day-to-day material that we need for our operation. And then we buy them frequently. It is not like capital item. Sometimes we use them within a week or two, or a day to maybe 1 week, or a day to maybe 1 month. So the lifespan of operational materials are sometimes within a day or maybe 2 weeks. Okay. There are sometimes the values of operational procurement are sometimes low as compared to capital procurement. And another characteristic of operational procurement is that they are bought on frequent basis or repetitive purchase. And then their lifespan is also short as compared to procurement of capital procurement. As compared to capital items, the operational procurement, their lifespan is somehow short. And most often they are standard items. You can get all these operational items from so many suppliers. So they are standard items. You don't need any technical person to help you draw the specification for the purchase of operational items. Okay, and then they are also less complex as compared to plant and generators. Okay. Now, what is importance of operational procurement? Why do we buy operational procurement or operational items? Operational items ensure continuity of daily operations. Without this operational item, we cannot continue with daily operations at the organization setup. So when we go to hospital, without ID card, without gloves, without plaster, without syringes, or without gloves, we cannot ensure operations at the hospital. So we buy these items frequently. Okay, it helps us. It helps organizations to prevent work stoppage. We want or continuity in operation. It also supports efficiency and productivity. Operational procurement are day-to-day items that are used to support efficiency and day-to-day operations of the organization. Now, we are now also moving to another category of procurement. I told you we have 3 types of procurement. We have goods procurement, we have service procurement, and we have works procurement. Goods procurement is quite different from service procurement. Likewise, service procurement is also different from works procurement. So now we are going to look at service procurement. What then is service procurement? Service procurement is the process of acquiring services from external providers to support an organization operation, project or static goals rather than buying physical goods. So when we talk of service procurement, it is not like a physical goods that we are buying. It is, you cannot see service. So something like the lectures going on between me and you people are classical examples of what? Service procurement. Some of these, some of the most common service utilized by business organizations include banking, consultancy, advertising and design, catering services, cleaning services and security, maintenance, and then IT support, security services, training and capacity building services. All these things happen in organization. Every organization may have security officers. Their activity that they perform are not seen physically, but they are providing some services. Most organizations have bank accounts. This bank account cannot be seen physically, but something goes in day in and day out. Sometimes organizations secure consultancy from other service providers like lawyers and then other people. They are all part of procurement of services. So you cannot see service procurement, but most often in the form of what? Service. They provide service. The focus is less on price and more on what? Capability. When you are going to procure services, you don't sometimes consider the price, but you consider the quality of services that are going to be provided to you. Apart from the quality, you also consider the experience of the service provider. You also talk about the qualification of the service provider and sometimes the outcome of the service the person is going to provide. The outcome of the service the person is going to provide. So when you are going to procure services, you consider the quality of the service and the experience of the service provider. So
Hello. The line dropped.
Hello.
The lecture is gone.
I thought it
It's
was my
going.
network.
Network ninye.
Network
Yeah.
nearby.
I think it's a network now. Yeah, the network.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it's the network.
Maybe he'll join us again. Let's wait.
But it's still on.
Lecture is on.
Yes, line is still
Hello, can
on.
you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
Yes,
can hear
please,
you
we can
now.
hear you.
Hello, check.
Hello.
You can hear me now. Okay,
Yes.
so let's continue.
It's not
So
clear.
I'm repeating. Okay, I hope you got me well. Service procurement.
Yes.
Service procurement is the process of acquiring services from external providers to support an organization operations. Okay, some of these operations are banking services, consultancy services, advertising, and then catering services, cleaning services, security services, and then training and capacity building services, and then transportation and logistics services. They provide services more than providing physical goods. And before you choose a service provider, there are certain things that you must consider. the capability of the service provider, that is the experience or the expertise of the service provider, the quality of the item the service provider is providing for you, and then service level the service provider is providing for you, and then outcome of the service. So sometimes when you are going to employ or procure a service provider, there are certain activities or quality that you look for: the experience, the expertise, and the service level, and sometimes the qualification of the service provider. So as I'm lecturing you here, I'm providing service. I have doctorate degree in supply chain. So it is assumed that I can handle this course. That's why this course was given to me. It was not given to somebody who has just completed secondary school or maybe JHS, because at that level, that person doesn't have the expertise or the experience to handle a course like procurement contest. So it is assumed that me having PhD in supply chain, I can handle procurement contest. That is why this service was given to me. Okay, so anytime you are going to procure a consultant, you look at the expertise of the consultant, the experience of the consultant, the service level of the consultant, and maybe the outcome of the item that you are looking for. Now let's look at distinctive features of a service. Services are not the same as works procurement. They are not the same as goods procurement. Okay, service are all intangible. It means you can't touch or store them. You cannot touch a service and you cannot also store them. And the service is inseparable. They cannot separate from the service provider and the receiver. As I'm talking now, you are taking the feedback from me, you are listening to me, and I'm also talking. Okay, so the receiver and the provider, the manufacturing happen at the same time. Okay, and sometimes so the quality of service depend heavily on people and the performance. So service provision may differ from the expertise of the service provider. And service too is also somehow perishable. A service cannot be stored or stockpiled for later use. A service cannot be stored or stockpiled for later use. Unlike procurement of goods where you can store and use them later, for service, the provider and the receiver take place at the same time. So it is somehow perishable. It is a time bound. Now I have 2 hours to lecture you today. After 2 hours, it is okay, it is done. I cannot come back and lecture you the same thing unless you record me. If you don't record me, it means you cannot store what I have informed you. And the fact that I'm teaching you today doesn't mean I have transferred my qualification or my certificate to you. I'm not transferring my certificate or whatever to you, but I'm done. Unlike physical goods where I can transfer my pen or A4 sheet to you, I cannot transfer my physical or certificate to you. So ownership, as far as ownership is concerned, you cannot transfer ownership in certificate or in service. You cannot transfer ownership in service. So now, services cannot be seen. You cannot touch them. How then do we measure the quality of a service? How then do we measure quality of a service? How am I going to measure the quality of the information I'm providing to you? How do you measure the services the doctor provided to you at the hospital? How are you going to measure the haircut the barber gave to you when you went to the barbering shop? How do you measure the quality of it? It is not like a physical goods where you can measure the quality, you can measure the weight, you can measure the height. For services, you cannot measure the quality, but there are other ways of measuring service quality. Okay, there are other ways of measuring service quality. So we are going to look at how to measure service quality. Okay, measure of service quality are the critical assess how well a service meets a customer needs, okay, or expectation and agreed standard. How do you measure the quality that are being provided to you? If the service meets your needs, if the service meets your expectation, or if the service meets the standard agreed form, then it means the service that are being provided is quality. Okay, because it's not like a physical goods where you can measure the quality, you can measure the height, or you can measure the weight, but it depends on how the needs of the customer is, or the client, or how the client expects the service provider to go by the service, and how the standard of the service is will determine the quality. So there are other criteria that we can base on to measure service quality. The first criteria is reliability. Okay, how reliable the service provider is can serve as a quality for you. Okay, if the service provider promise you that today I will do the service for you, and then he goes by his words, it means that person is reliable, and it's a way or one way of measuring the quality of the service. So reliability means ability to perform the promised service accurately. If the service provider is able to perform the service that he rendered to you accurately, then it means that service is what? Reliable or it's of quality. Okay. Another way that we can use to measure service quality is consistency. Consistency. Okay. Example: service delivered on time and as agreed. If the service is delivered on the time promised and then on the agreed standard, it means the service is quality. So consistency of the service can also determine how quality the service is. And then another criteria can also be responsiveness. Responsiveness. What then is responsiveness? Willingness to help customers and provide prompt service. Willingness to help customers and provide prompt service. Example: the speed of responding to complaints and requests. When a service provider is able to respond to your complaints, it means the person is providing quality of service. Okay, let's assume you go to restaurant and then you go and sit down waiting for the waiter to come and serve you. It takes about 30 minutes before the waiter serves you. It means the person is not providing a quality service. But the moment you go to restaurant, within 5 minutes, what you want has been served. It means they are providing what? Quality service. So you can use how fast the person responds to your need to adjudge whether the service being provided to you is quality or not quality. And sometimes we can also use tangibility to assess quality of a service. What is tangibility? I'm talking about the appearance of the physical facilities. When you go to hospitals, when you go to banks, when you go to certain organizations, the facilities over there, the physical facilities, the appearance of the items, the machine, even the people who are talking to you, can also use as a form of quality. The personnel communicating to you, are they concentrating? Are they also helping you to solve your problem? If customers are complaining, are the personnel in the organization helping them to resolve their complaints or whatever? So, for example, that the service provider have smartly dressed staff or well-maintained equipment. If you enter into certain, the staffs are also well dressed, it means they are providing quality service. Another way you can use to assure yourself or the quality of a service is assurance. Assurance. What then is assurance? Customer confidence in the service provider based on the demonstrated competence, courtesy, credibility, and maybe security. If the service provider provide an assurance and then you go by this assurance, it means the service is of quality. Okay. Another criteria we can use to determine service quality is empathy. Empathy. Customer confidence that the service provider will identify with the customer's need. Sometimes you go to two organizations, but the way you are treated in one organization is different from the way you are also treated in another organization. So the more you are treated well, it means the person or the client is likely to go there for other services. But if you're not giving an empathy, maybe the service provider is shouting at you, it's not giving you the time to even talk or to express yourself, it means the service provider is not giving you a good quality of service. So there are so many criteria that we can use to measure service quality. Though we can't see service, we can't touch service, but there are other things that we can use to measure the quality. Some of the things are the reliability of the service provider, the consistency of the service provider, the responsiveness of the service provider, the tangibility of the service provider, the assurance of the service provider, and then the empathy of the service provider. If you see all these criteria, then it means the service provider is giving you quality service. I want to pause here and then ask question from my students. If you have any question, you have the power to do so. Any question for me now? As far as service procurement is concerned, as far as service procurement is concerned, any question? Brahma, do you have question for me?
Yes, my question is that at the beginning you said service provider, service procurement.
Yeah.
The procurement officer here does not have much contribution, but no, yeah, does not have much contribution to that, and it doesn't also conform with quality. It conform. You said it doesn't conform with quality. Sometimes maybe you are buying something. Maybe you want someone to render service to you. You don't look at the quality. Maybe if you don't look at the quality, at the end of the day, if you don't get a good results, when they also sanction organization, maybe they may sanction you because you are not a reliable procurement officer, giving them a reliable person, isn't it?
Benjamin, I said service procurement, you cannot see, you cannot touch it. So sometimes how do you assess the quality of the service provided to you? And I said you can assess the quality through reliability, consistency, responsiveness, tangibility, and the assurance. It doesn't mean that service provision. Just that the procurement officer may not know because he cannot touch, he cannot feel, he cannot weigh it, so he cannot determine the quality. But there are other criteria that we can use to determine the quality of a service.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Adam, do you have a question for me? Adam, are you there? Adam, any question for me?
No, sir.
Collins.
Sir.
Ask question. Collins, ask some question. As far as, yeah.
Sir, you were saying that when you go to banks are service providers. But when you go to and you can cut money, you can cut the account and even the record books and all that, you can touch it and the money you can see it.
Oh, I'm not talking about the physical items at the bank, but the service that they are going to provide to you. That's what I'm talking about, not the physical item, because you are not going to the bank because of the structures over there. You are going to the bank because of the service they are going to provide for you. It is not the counter that you are going to look at, but the service that you are going to procure from the bank.
All right, sir. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now moving to key performance indicators. Key performance indicators. In procurement, there are certain indicators that we can use to assure ourselves that we are meeting performance. there are certain indicators that we can use to assure ourselves that we are meeting performance. So let's assume as a student, at the end of the semester, your result, and at least you get A plus, B, whatever. It means you can assure yourself that you are doing well. So it is your result that will determine your key performance indicators. Okay, so your key performance indicator as a student one of them can be the result that you are getting from the marks, the exams that you wrote. In procurement, what are some of the key performance indicators that we can use to assure ourselves that we are getting what we need? Okay, I'm sure that you might have heard KPIs or key performance indicators, but in this course too, we have to also discuss key performance indicators. Key performance indicators can be drawn up to suit the needs of a particular service contract. Okay, so apart from the reliability, the consistency, and others that we use as a measurement of quality in service, we can also have another performance indicators here. So key performance are agreed specific measures of performance of a unit of organization against which progress and performance can be what? Evaluated. Okay. So other key performance that we can use in service quality is time. Time taken to complete a cleaning task can also be used as key performance indicators. So if it has to take 20 minutes to finish a particular service, and then the service provider is able to complete that task within 20 minutes, it means we have achieved what we want. Okay, it means we have achieved what we want. So we can use timing as a key performance indicators, and then we can also look at how fast we are able to solve customer complaint or customer request. Okay. We are able to solve customer complaint or customer request can also be used as a key performance indicator. So if you are able to fast track the complaint or able to resolve the issue of a client, it means we are using that fast track issue as a key performance indicator. And then how the customer is satisfied or how the client is satisfied can also be used as a key performance indicator. Key performance indicator. Customer satisfaction with overall services can also be served as a key performance indicator. How would you know the customer or the client is satisfied? The feedback. We use the feedback of the customer. Let's assume a customer came to your organization and complained about certain activity that you provided, and then you're able to solve that problem. And the customer comes back and tell you, oh, I'm okay with how you have solved my problem. The feedback will indicate that even our performance indicators. And then compliance, quality compliance, conformance to agreed standard and specification. If the customer or service provider is able to provide what the client wants, it means we are achieving our performance. We are achieving our performance. Quality compliance. If you're able to go by how the client wants or how you go about achieving the specification of the client, it means we are on course and we are achieving the key performance of what we are looking for. Then we can also go for monitoring service level. We can also monitor the service being provided by the service provider. Okay, so we have wide range of techniques available for monitoring, keeping an eye on the service provision and service level. If you monitor the service and you see that you are achieving what you want, it means you are getting the performance that you want. Monitoring service level is the continuous process of tracking. So you can do tracking. If you are tracking some maybe shipment from China to maybe Ghana here, and maybe by 2 hours it is Nigeria, by 5 hours it's back to Ghana. When that tracking, it means you are yourself service performance against agreed standard to ensure that services are delivered as specified in contract or service agreement level. So we can use monitoring to achieve what our service level. Methods of monitoring service level in service organization. What are the methods that you can use to monitor performance? You can use self-assessment by the service provider. Self-assessment. Service providers may require report by their own staff. Service providers may require report by their own staff. So how your staffs are performing are also a way of monitoring your own services in an organization. Then you can also use observation and what? Experience. You can also use observation and experience. How you observe their workers, how they are performing, how they are working can also be used as what? Performance what? Indicator. So one way of performance indicator can be what? Observation. If you observe and you see that you are meeting timelines, if you observe and you see that everything is going all right, it means you are providing a good word service. You can also use spot checks and sample testing. Spot checks and then sample testing. At certain point in time, you take a sample from the batch that is being produced. Then you sample it and find out whether you are meeting specification. Those activities can be used as a form of monitoring services level. So performance may be periodically tested or measured in some way. All these are part of monitoring service level. Okay. You can also use customer feedbacks. Okay. What are some of the purposes of monitoring? Why do you monitor service? Why do you monitor service? We monitor service to ensure compliance with contract terms. We monitor service to ensure compliance, whether the service provider is meeting the contract terms. Then we also monitor service to maintain service quality. You don't wait for the service provider to finish providing the service before you monitor. Something like when you go to a barber shop or barbering shop, and then the barber is removing your hair or your hair, and you don't complain. Maybe there are certain portion of your hair that you don't want the barber to remove that hair, but the moment he started, then he started removing the hair from that portion of your head. If you don't prompt the person or monitor the movement of the scissors and that, before you realize he has taken all the hair from your head. So we monitor to maintain service what? Quality. We monitor to maintain what? Service quality. Sometimes, even if you go to hospital, you have the right to ask more questions from the doctor. Why this? Why that? So that the doctor may not give you a bad prescription. The doctor has to understand your problem before he gives you what? A prescription. So when you go to hospital and you meet a doctor, he's a service provider, but you be the client, you have to also monitor his what? His activity. Otherwise, before you realize he has given you a bad prescription. And then another purpose of monitoring service is what? To identify performance gaps. To identify performance gaps early, so that when you see that the service provider is doing something wrong, you can draw his attention and come back to the track, so that at the end, the two of you are satisfied. We monitor service level to achieve what? Performance. So you monitor to identify gaps in the service that being provided by the service provider. Then another purpose for monitoring is that to support continuous improvement. We monitor to enhance continuous improvement by the service being provided by the service provider, and then to also enforce accountability and value for money. In procurement, we are looking for value for money. So we monitor performance before the final outcome, so that we can rework on any gaps before the final outcome. Any question on this before we continue? Because we are going to start a new topic. we are going to start a new topic based on your handout given to me, which I know everybody has that information. Unit 2, we are going to discuss adding value in procurement and supply. In Unit 2, looking at your information, we are going to start Unit 2. So we are done with Unit 1. We are now moving on to Unit 2. The topic for Unit 2 is adding value in procurement and supply. So at the end of this unit, you should be able to understand the operational objectives of procurement. You must be able to explain what an added value is. You must identify the 5 rights of procurement. You must understand the right price and the right quantity. You must also understand the right quantity at the right time and at the right place. You must understand other considerations in relation to adding values in procurement. So our next topic is value in procurement. In procurement, what is the meaning of value? In procurement, what is the meaning of value? In simple terms, the moment you meet all the 5 rights, it means you have achieved the value. When you're able to buy item at the right price, at the right quantity, at the right quality, at the right place, and delivered it at the right place, it means you are able to achieve value. So it is not the price alone that can give you value, but all other rights come together have to achieve what? Value. So in procurement, when we say value, it means that we are able to achieve right quantity, we bought the right quantity, we are able to buy the right quality from the right supplier, deliver to the what? The right place at what? Right price. These are the 5 rights that equals value in procurement. So value in procurement refers to the goods or services compared to the total cost of ownership. So when we say value in procurement, we are not talking about just the price of the item, but the total cost and other things, not just the purchase price. Okay. In business environment, the procurement function is one of the most critical functions as it provides the input for organization to convert input to what? Output. So in procurement, you must make sure that you achieve all the rights because you are the one representing the organization buying of goods and services that can be converted into finished goods and then sell out to customers. So what then is value in procurement? Value means it must be available at the proper time. Value in procurement means the item that you are buying must be at the right time. You must buy the item at the right time and then in the proper quantity. As a procurement officer, you don't just buy any other quantity, but what? Proper quantity or economic other quantity. Then the item must be from the right place, from the right supplier, and the proper price. So these are the 5 rights that come together to form value in procurement. The 5 rights equals value. Value is achieved when procurement delivers the right quality at the right time from the right supplier and at the right cost by minimizing risk. Okay, so this is the meaning of what? Value in procurement. So procurement, because you buy goods on behalf of the organization, there are certain activities that you do that add value to procurement. Okay, so let's look at the activities procurement officers do to add value in procurement. Importance of adding value in procurement. Okay, adding value in procurement helps to reduce total procurement cost. Okay, how do you add value as a procurement officer? How do you add value? The first thing you can do is to help the organization reduce total procurement costs. They must also help to improve quality of goods and services in organization. You must also enhance organizational efficiency. You must strengthen supplier relationships. You must also improve customer satisfaction. As a procurement, you must help this organization in this way. So how do you add value in procurement? How do you add value in procurement? These are the areas that I've mentioned. If you're able to help reduce total cost, it means you are adding value. If you help the organization to improve quality, you are adding value. If you help the organization to enhance efficiency, you are adding value. If you're able to enhance the relationship between the organization and the suppliers who supply the items to the organization, if you enhance the relationship, it means you are adding value. If you're able to improve customer satisfaction and the customer retention in organization, as a procurement, you are adding value. So there are so many things that procurement can add to ensure value in the organization. So let's see some done by procurement. Ways of adding value in procurement and supply. So cost reduction and cost avoidance. As a procurement officer, you don't necessarily increase cost of items that you are buying. You must also help to ensure avoidance of cost. You don't do anything that will increase the cost, but avoidance of cost. How do you avoid cost increase in organization? You can use negotiation or reducing waste and rework. Okay, reducing waste means you buy the items that are required. You buy items that are of good quality. You buy item which is of fitness for purpose. Okay, you don't unnecessarily buy any item that cannot be useful in organization. When you avoid all this, it means you are avoiding unnecessary cost. You buy the right item, you buy the right quality, you buy the right supplier. It means you are reducing cost and you are also avoiding unnecessary cost. Okay, another activity of procurement officer to reduce or add value is proper sourcing. Proper sourcing. There are so many suppliers in the market, but how do you choose the best from the lot is known as what? Sourcing. Sourcing can help to reduce cost whilst you are adding value. Selecting supplier based on value. You select supplier based on what? Value, not price alone. Okay, the moment you go to the market and you are selecting suppliers, you don't just select any other supplier, but you select a supplier who can help you achieve value. Okay, and the long-term supplier partnership. Then another activity of procurement officer that add value is what? Supplier relationship management. Creating cordial relationship between the organization and then the supplier organization. That is collaboration with key suppliers and performance monitoring using KPIs. Okay. One way of adding value in organization as a procurement officer is ability to create cordial relationship between you and then the supplying organization. Okay, so that in case there's even scarcity, you will be the first person for the suppliers to consider because of that cordial relationship you have with the supplying organization. Okay, another activity that add value in organization through procurement is quality improvement. Quality improvement, that is setting clear specification and continuous improvement activities. Before you commit organization, before you give an order to supply a certain activity, it means the specification is right. The supplier understand what he's supposed to deliver to you. And then another activity to add value is risk management. You must minimize risk. You must minimize risk in the organization. Minimization of risk. What's the risk minimization? Identifying and mitigating supply chain risk and supplier diversification. So in that case, how do you minimize risk in organization as a procurement officer? You don't rely on one supply source. You don't rely on one supply source. Every item that you buy into the organization, you must have at least 3 suppliers who supply the same item. So in case the first supplier disappoints you, or the third supplier for the same item. That is why we do supplier selection and supplier evaluation. The way how reason we go for supplier selection evaluation is that we want to minimize risk. We want to select the best. And even selecting the best, you must also have a backup of a supplier. So there are so many ways of achieving or adding value in procurement. There are so many ways of adding values in procurement. The moment you go by these activities, it means you are achieving what the organization wants. Okay. We are now moving to objective of purchasing in achieving value. How do we achieve these values? How do we achieve value in procurement? The classical definition of objectives of purchasing is to buy materials and services of the right quality in the right quantity at the right place from the right source and at the right time. In general, in general terms, the objectives of purchasing are to support company operations. You, procurement officer, you buy raw materials to support company's operations with an uninterrupted flow of materials and services. We are producing certain items. We don't want interruption in the supply. So, procurement officer, you have to make sure that there's uninterrupted supply of raw materials, parts, and components to help the organization to produce the finished product that they want. So, one way of adding value is what? Making sure there's what? Uninterrupted flow of materials in organization. And also to buy competitively and wisely. As a procurement officer, you don't buy because the item is cheap. You don't buy because the item is cheaper or something of that. You buy the item at a competitive price. And then you also help keep minimum inventory. You don't overbuy. You don't overbuy because the inventory also represents money. So when you buy more than necessary, it means you are tying up capital at the store. The item at the store can be converted into money. So as a procurement officer, one way to add value is that you don't buy excess goods. You buy the item that can be used within a particular point in time. When you do that, that means you are adding value to the organization. Okay. One way to also add value is to develop reliable alternative source of supply. Supply, it means you are adding value because there's not going to be interruption in supply. The moment one supply disappoints you, it means you can switch on to another supply. So another way of adding value in procurement is to prepare for alternative source of supply. Another way is to develop good vendor relationship. So procurement officer, you develop good relationship with all suppliers, whether goods, service providers, or waste contractors. They must also achieve maximum integration with the other departments of the firm. As a procurement officer or maybe a stores officer at the hospital level, there should be cordial relationship between you and the user department. At the hospital level, the female ward, the male ward, surgical ward, or maybe accounts, they all depend on you for goods and services. So because they depend on you, there should be some relationship between you and them. Then you must also develop policies and procedures which permit accomplishment of proceeding achieving objectives. Achieving what? Objectives. Okay. So these are the activities that procurement officer do to add value. Okay. Now we have value and added value. In procurement, there's difference between value and then added value. We are able to discuss value. What then is added value in procurement? Two values. We have the general value and then added value. What's the difference between value and then added value? We are going to discuss these two terms. The term added value does essentially refer to the addition of greater value or worth to product or service as a result of all processes that support its production and delivery to customer. Added value means you are performing an activity, but you are adding more or extra features to existing activity. The existing activity is a value. And then when you go beyond that existing activity, it means you are adding more value to it. So simply means, added value simply means addition of greater worth to the existing value. Addition of greater worth to existing value. When you add something to the existing value, it means it is added value. So let's assume from SS, you are now doing your first degree at UCC. So the first degree now becomes what? Added value to the value that you have in education. You completing secondary school, you have added value to yourself. You moving towards first degree, you are adding extra value to yourself. When you do master's degree, you are added another value. When you do PhD, you have also added extra value to yourself. So added value means you have the value already and you're adding something more to it. That is what added value in procurement. So we are going to look at the meaning of added value in procurement. Now that I've been able to explain the value to you, what then is added value? Added value is the extra benefits or extra words created by procurement activities beyond the basic purchase requirement. Okay, beyond the basic purchase requirement is known as added value. For example, selecting a supplier who offers training. Okay, if you select a supplier and create relationship with the supplier, it's a value that you have created for the organization. But if that supplier can go ahead and provide extra training to the organization, the people within the organization, maybe how to install certain plants in organization, giving extra training, it means you are adding value to the value that you have created already. The value first here is selecting the supplier who can supply you the item. The added value is when that supplier can give you extra training or warranty or installation. It means you are adding value to the existing value here. Okay, if you have a supplier who can deliver item within 40 days, but another supplier can also deliver the same item within 30 days, it means you are adding value. You are adding value. A faster delivery is what? Added value. Okay, a faster delivery is added value. You give a contract, you give an award, and then within the purchase order, you say the supplier to deliver the item within 10 days. And then within 7 days, 6 days, this supplier has delivered the item. So it means the supplier has fast-tracked the orders. It means this fast-track is added value to the existing contracts. Okay? And then if you select a supplier who can also give you a technical support, a supplier who can even help you to draw the specification, it is an what? Added value, because it is not any supplier who can give a technical support. But if you can select a supplier who supply you the item and at the same time can give you technical support based on the item that you have supplied, it means you have added a value to the existing contract. So there's difference between value and what? Added value. Added value means giving extra value or adding more value to the existing one is what? Added value. Okay, going beyond what is expected of you is what? Added value. Okay, so the difference between added value and then value. Any question before we continue? Do you have any question for me as far as value of procurement and the added value of procurement are concerned? Yes. Rita, do you have any question for me? Hello, Rita.
No, sir. Sir.
Yes.
I don't have any question.
You don't have any question. Felix, any question for me?
Yep. Yes, sir. I have a question.
Okay.
Okay. Let's say I went to a barbering salon to get my hair done, and during the course of the haircut, I'm being offered malt in addition. Okay. So that one I can classify it as added value for the service that the barber is giving me.
So that barber is giving what? Added value.
Malt
okay?
Drink. Yes.
Malt, yes. It's added value. Okay. So he wanted to come back. We want to come back another time. Okay. I hope recently you heard that
I get it now.
station.
So the month that I was offered have nothing to do with the haircut. You understand? So the added value, the added value that was added is the month for me to be able to come back anytime.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All
he
right.
has
Thank you,
gone
sir.
beyond the value. So the first value is the haircut.
Yes. Okay.
And the added value is the extra or additional value that he's adding.
Okay. Okay. I get it.
Do you understand it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I get
Yes,
it.
sir.
So yeah. Any other question
So
concerning
with
value
the
and added value?
with the added value, let's say
Mm-hmm.
you've gone to the barbering shop as he's saying, and that
Yeah.
barbering shop first they don't have air condition, and he
Mm-hmm.
goes to know say first they don't have air condition fixed on the shop, and he got to know
Yeah.
say let me fix air condition, and he fixed the air condition at the shop. So has he added
Mhm.
value or not?
Yes, added value.
Hello, he's
Yes, he
added
has
value.
added
Okay.
some value. Because there are so many barbering shops where there's no air condition. But the barbering
Yes.
shop itself is a value, and then adding the condition air condition is what added what value.
Value.
Okay.
Okay.
I hope recently we heard that some fuel stations are giving out breakfast. Did
Yes.
you
Hey.
hear that?
I've heard that.
So
Yes.
so that activity is more or less what added value. Okay, they are performing their fundamental obligation already, but they are adding what value to it.
Okay.
Okay, then let's continue. Our next topic is the value chain and the value system. Value chain and the value system. Value chain and the value system. Michael Porter came out with some activities within every organization. Michael Porter said that there are some activities performed by any organization. There are 5 activities. These activities are internal activities, especially supply chain organization. They perform 5 activities, and these activities add value to supply chain. So we are going to look at these activities that add value to supply chain. The value chain is a set of internal activities an organization performs to create value for its customers, from sourcing of input to the delivery of the final product to the customer. These are the main value chain organization perform in getting items from the supply and also transforming them and giving them to customers. There are 5 main activities performed by internal perform organization, and these activities are within the internal organization. Okay, so we are going to look at them one after the other. The 5 major internal activities of organization was introduced by Michael Porter. I know most of you have heard the name Michael Porter, and each activity should add value or support value creation. All these activities, all these primary activities that Michael Porter said, these activities, in one way or the other, must support value creation. They must create value to the organization. And we term these activities as 5 activities in the value chain or primary activities in the value chain. So we are going to look at this primary. We have primary activities and we have support activities. All these activities must support value creation in any organization. We have 5 of them which are being the primary activities, and we have 3 which are support activities. So let's take them one after the other. The first activity of the value chain is inbound logistics. Inbound logistics. What is inbound logistics? Inbound logistics means when organizations are going to buy item, they source the item from suppliers. So all activities between the organization and their suppliers are known as inbound logistics. Meaning inbound logistics is made up of purchase of raw materials, components, parts, transporting of these goods, taking inventory of these goods and other things. They are all classified as what? Inbound logistics. Any activity that happens between the supplier and then the organization is known as what? Inbound logistics, because they buy the raw material from suppliers, they transport the raw materials, they handle them, they repackage them, they store them. All these activities are known as what? Inbound logistics. So classical examples of inbound logistics are receiving of goods from suppliers is inbound logistics. Storing of the raw materials before you convert them into finished goods is known as inbound logistics. Handling of these items and the warehousing, inventory control activities are all part of inbound logistics. Bear in mind that we also have outbound logistics. Outbound logistics is when you have converted the raw materials into finished goods and you are distributing to the customers. That activity is outbound logistics. But when you are taking the items from the supplier, raw materials, before you convert them to finished goods, is known as inbound logistics or outbound. It's known as what? Inbound logistics. Yes. So there are 5 major activities that transpire in an organization. And the first one is inbound logistics. That is the buying, receiving, storing, handling, and the warehousing of activities in the organization. It's known as inbound logistics. And these activities happen between the suppliers and then buying organization. Okay. And it also goes with information, forecasting, and then payment of goods, delivery of goods. Okay. All these are part of the primary activities in relation to inbound logistics. In relation to inbound logistics. Then let's consider or let's discuss the second activity in supply chain or value chain. The second activity in value chain is operation. Operation simply means you are converting the raw materials into finished goods. Or let's take the definition of operation. Operation are concerned with the transformation of input into goods or services. Manufacturing. These activities include assembling, testing, packing, equipment maintenance in service industry or basic service or provision. The manufacturing of item or transformation of item, conversion of raw material into finished goods are known as operation or manufacturing. This is the second activity that happens in any organization. This is the second activity that happens in any organization. The first one is the obtaining of raw materials into organization. The second one is converting them into organization or transforming them into organization. The third activity or the third primary activity here is known as inbound logistics. What is inbound logistics? Outbound logistics. The first one is inbound logistics. Second one is operation, and the third one is outbound logistics. This activity happens between the focal firm and their customers. Okay, outbound logistics means the raw materials have been converted into finished goods, and we are now transferring it to our customers. So all activities between the focal firm, the manufacturer, and the wholesaler or the retailer is known as outbound logistics. So what then is outbound logistics? Outbound logistics are concerned with storing. Yes. Do you know inbound logistics, there's also storing. And the outbound logistics, there's also another storing over here. The difference between the two storing is that inbound logistics, the items are raw in nature. So here it goes to raw material stores. And then the outbound store is when the items are converted into a finished goods. So the finished goods also goes to what? Finished goods store. You don't mix the raw material with what? The finished goods. So we have two stores over here. The first one is what? Inbound logistics store that stores all the components, raw materials. And then the second outbound store is storing finished goods, where distributors are come to take the items and go and distribute what? The customers. So here to storage also take place here, or inventory also take place here. Distribution and what? Delivering the finished goods to customers. This is what? Outbound logistics. Warehousing, material handling, transport, planning, other processing. Other processing means One customer gives order and you're also distributing to them. This distribution and delivery to customers is known as what? Outbound logistics. So there's difference between inbound logistics and then outbound logistics. And the outbound logistics is the third activity performed in any organization. Okay. Then we have marketing and sales. Marketing and sales. Marketing and sales. So it means the outbound logistics mostly deals with what? How you market and sell the items to what? Communities and then customers. That's the third activity performed in supply chain. The fourth activity is what? Service. Service. What is service? In supply chain, what's the meaning of what? Service. The service means service covers all the activities which occur after the point of sale. After you have sold the item to the customer, any other activity or any other extra service that you provide, we call it what? Service, to enhance or maintain the value of the product for the customer. Okay, sometimes when you sell an item to a customer, if you must add a package to it, it's also part of what? The service. For instance, at the hospital level, when you are going to take anti-rabies or anti-snake, anti-rabies or anti-snakes are the drugs given to a patient which is bitten by a snake or dog. And then this item must be packaged in a cold chain. So provision of this extra service is known as what? Service to the customer. Okay. Then sometimes when somebody buys item from the shop, he cannot even install the items. He cannot repair the items. The person needs training. The person needs extra parts to service the item that he has bought. All these things are known as what? Service or after sales support. Sometimes we call it what? After sales support. So when you sell items to the customer and you go to the customer's place to install the item, it is what? After sales support. When you give training or education to the customer how to use the item is also known as what? After sales support. Then the fourth activity performed in fifth one is marketing and sales. The fifth activity is what? Marketing and sales. What then is marketing and sales? These are strategies to enhance visibility and target appropriate customers, such as advertising, promotion, and pricing. Okay. After production, you need what? Advertising, promotion, and what? Pricing. So value chain, when we talk of value chain, there are 5 primary activities that happen in value chain. The first activity is inbound logistics. That's the first primary activity. The second primary activity of value chain is operations. The third activity of the primary activity in the value chain is what? Outbound logistics. And then the fourth activity is what? Provision of what? After sales service or after sales support. And then the last one is what? Marketing and what? And sales. So Michael Porter said these are the main activities that happen in most of organizations. Okay, inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, services, and the marketing and sales. He classified these activities as primary activities within an organization. And the same person also came out with other support activities. Michael Porter said these are support activities because they are not the main operation in the value chain, but you also need these support activities to enable the primary activities to progress. Without these secondary or support activities, you cannot achieve the primary activities. So let's also take this secondary or support activities that happens in organization. Okay, secondary or support activities provide the foundation that enables the primary activities to operate efficiently. So the secondary activities in organization support or it enhance the operations of the primary activities. We have able to discuss the primary activities. So what then are the secondary activities that grease or enhance the primary activities? These activities do not directly create value. Michael Porter says that the secondary activities in any organization do not directly create value, but the primary activities must create value to the organization. But the secondary activities or the support activities do not necessarily create what? Value. But if they are not there to, the primary activity cannot be what? Achieved. If the secondary or support activities are not there, the primary activity cannot be achieved. So they support and enhance the performance of the primary functions. We are going to look at this secondary activity. Procurement, for example, supports every stage by acquiring the necessary input for operation, marketing, logistics, service, and other things. So what are the secondary activities that Michael Porter is talking about? The first activity of the first secondary activity is firm infrastructure. The infrastructure of the firm supports the primary activities, and it is true. Without the infrastructure, we may not achieve the secondary activity. Let's assume you are an organization, you are buying an item, and you don't have storehouse. Where are you going to store the item that you have bought? Where are you going to store the items that you have bought? It means the infrastructure or the housing, the warehouse support storage, or it support what? Inventory. So firm infrastructure refers to organization systems, structures, and functions that support the entire value chain. So any facility, any structure in any organization that supports supply chain is also known as what? Infrastructure or secondary support activity. It includes activities such as strategic planning. Okay, before you buy an item, you must also plan. But the planning doesn't form part of the supply chain. But without planning too, you cannot engage in supply chain. Finance is also part of the secondary activity. Value chain does not necessarily include finance, but after the item has been delivered, it's the account or finance that have to pay for the item. Okay, legal services. Okay, sometimes when you draw a purchase order, a legal person must also look at how the order is so that you will not commit yourself unnecessarily. Then quality control and the general management. Effective infrastructure ensure coordination, control, and efficient decision making across all primary and support activities. So we have support activities that are giving, that are pushing the primary activities to progress. Without the secondary activity, the primary activity cannot go on or we cannot achieve. Then another secondary activity is the human resource. Human resource. What is human resource? It is part of the support activity in any value chain, but they do not directly involve in the procurement. Okay, human resource management covers all activities involved in recruiting. Now, the procurement officer will be recruited by the human resource. The stores officer who is directly involved in supply chain may also be directly recruited by the human resource. Okay, when it comes to selecting, training, deploying, motivating, and retaining and developing employees, the human resource are there. Okay, the human resource are skilled and motivated employees. They improve productivity, service quality, and innovation. So human resource also perform a very good activity in supply chain, but their activity are regarded as what? Support activity or secondary activity. Their activity does not form part of the value chain. Okay, their activity does not form part of the value chain. They also have another support activity known as technology development. Known as technology development. Technology development include activity related to equipment, information system. Before you give an order to a supplier to supply certain quantity of item, you need the support of the technology. You need internet. Even if you send email or whatever, you need what? The technology. You need computers. You need other things to improve your activity. Okay, so we have three main support activities. That is the infrastructure of the organization. We have the human resource of the organization. We also have technology of the organization. They help value chain to add value, but they are not directly involved. Their involvement is a support service. So I will end here. If you have any other question to ask concerning value, added value, and then value chain and the value system. Okay, so value chain, there are 5 main activities: inbound logistics, operations or manufacturing, and then outbound logistics, then service, and then market and sales. These are the main 5 value chain activities that add value to supply chain. And then we have secondary activities that support supply chain but do not add value to supply chain. So I'll pause here. If you have any other question, then we'll continue. So I welcome questions from you.
I have a big question.
Big one, eh?
Yes.
Okay.
So, looking at the value chain, the primary value activities and the secondary one.
Yeah.
According to Michael Porter, he states that
Mm-hmm.
The secondary value or secondary that the things that support the primary values are firms, human resources, and technology. So to me, I don't understand, because maybe if you want to enter into a contract with a company, or you want someone to supply you something, or you want to acquire a service from someone, so the first impression counts. Maybe the building, the people that you meet, it really counts. Because if you tell me that the building and the human resource is secondary, so me, I don't get it. Because if you go into that service, it is human being that you are going to meet.
Okay.
You understand? So I see to it that the human factor and the infrastructure can be classified as a primary primary value activity. Because if maybe I want to enter into a contract and I see that the building that the person is inside is not that how do you call it, that kind of building I'm looking for, it will put me off. I won't really enter into that contract with the person, and how the person will welcome me will let me know that, oh, if I give the contract to this person, he'll be able to perform and perform it well. So to me, I don't side with yes, with primary and the secondary support activities. That's my question.
Okay, that's a very good point. And you know, until another concept comes into being, these are the concepts we have all taught. Do you understand my point? So you can challenge the concept proposed by somebody. Okay, but this is what we have asked to believe, that in any organization you have primary activities and secondary activities, and they are able to outline the primary one and the secondary one. You may have your own version about it, but this is what has been approved in the educational setup, that we should all go by this concept. Do you understand my point? And then also, based on your question, do you understand the direct procurement and the indirect procurement? Do you know that direct procurement are the activities that go into the finished goods, and then the indirect procurement are the activities that help in helping the finished goods to go on. So what Michael Porter said, to me, I understand him, because all those support activities does not form direct value chain, or does not form the procurement activities of what inbound, outbound, operation, and other things, but they rather support the primary one to progress. So I understand you perfect, but I'm happy that you understand how I explain the primary activities, and then the secondary what activity. Your point is not about you not understanding me, but you want to challenge that concept.
Yes.
Yes. So you can also grow up and also come out with another concept that will counter Michael Porter's what concept. It is allowed in, in academics. You can come out with another concept challenging maybe Michael Porter, saying that no, in your perception, all those secondary activities should be part of the primary activity, so that we lump all of them together. But now that we have not got any counter concept, that is what is available for the two of us.
Okay, sir, I get it.
Do you understand my point?
All right, sir.
Yeah. Any other question?
Sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My questions are two in one.
Okay.
The first one is about, so how does the value chain add value to products? That's my first question.
How does
the value chain, how does it add value to the products?
Okay.
And the second one is about, so how do distributors and customers fit into the value system?
Okay, so let me take it one after the other. How does the primary product add value to the value chain?
Yes.
Okay, so let's take inbound logistics. All activities within the inbound logistics, storing, transportation, handling, inventory, and other things, they all add value. It makes the value chain viable. It adds value to, let's assume you are storing goods. If you don't store the goods and you expose the goods to maybe sunlight, you deteriorate the value of the goods. So here, you storing the items, you add some value to it. And I use maybe anti-rabies and anti-snake as an example for you. If you don't store them in a cold chain and you expose them to the sunlight, you also deteriorate what? The value of the item. So all these activities that you are doing as a supply chain, you are adding value. Okay, you are adding value. Even you creating good relationship with the supplier, you get some benefit from the supplier, meaning you are adding value. When you are able to also reduce cost of procurement, it means you are adding value. Okay, so anything that gives benefit to your organization, it means you are adding value. That's the meaning of what? Addition, value what? Addition. Okay, if you don't necessarily procure item that will give maybe extra cost or whatever, and then you are buying it within the minimum cost or whatever, you are adding value. Okay, so it's like all the value chain activities must add value to what? The activity. It doesn't have to negate or give negative what? Impression or negative what? Outcome to the value chain. Anything that you do, if you're able to negotiate the price and then the price comes down, you are adding value. But if you couldn't negotiate and then the prices are high, it means you are not adding value. So any activity that you do as a procurement officer that will minimize the risk or also add some value and efficiency to the system, it means it is adding of what? Value. That's the first answer that I can give you. And what was the second question?
So how do distributors and customers fit into the value system?
They are part of the value system because distributors also convey the goods from one point to another point. So they are also part of the inbound logistics and what? Outbound logistics. So they are part. When we talk of supply chain, there are a lot of people who are involved in supply chain. Procurement people are part of supply chain. Those who are transporting the goods are also part of supply chain. Those who are assembling the goods are part of supply chain. Those who are giving inventory to the goods are also supply chain. And those who are giving extra services to customers are also part of us, supply chain. So supply chain goes beyond what you see as just procurement or maybe storage. Any other function or any other activity that add value to the supply chain, all those activities are part of what? Supply chain. So distributors are also part of supply chain. So you can also, how should I put it? You can also do distribution as part of what? Supply chain, and it is allowed. Even some organizations, they see marketing as part of supply chain, because you providing marketing and sales as a value chain activity of a value chain. It means marketing is sometimes subsumed as part of what? Part of supply chain. So marketing activity is a supply chain, but finance does not form part of what? Supply chain.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. For time being, I have a question, a problem with the primary values and then the secondary values.
Okay.
As my colleague just stated, for time being, we will allow my reporter for now. But looking at it, while you are going to look at the supply chain, I don't know why the secondary value is supposed to be a supporting activity, in the sense that when you are going to set up a chain value, you need the infrastructure as a very core object. And human capacity, you need them. And technology, how maybe you are going to store goods, or maybe how you are going to convert goods from raw material to good services. I think.
Okay. I understand you. And you know, gone are the days. Purchasing was not part of, doesn't form part of management. Purchasing was a clerical activity. It was not regarded as a strategic position in any organization. But as time went on, they become part of a strategic activity in organization. So maybe at the time Michael Porter was formulating this activity, how things were happening in that environment, that is why he thought this activity are supporting activity, but not a primary activities. But today, looking at how strategic purchasing is looked at in organization, how infrastructure and human resource and technology are also becoming part of supply chain, we can also say that based on this or that, all the support activities should rather be part of what? Primary what? Activity. Maybe at the time Mark Porter was formulating that activity, he looked at the environment, what was pertaining. That's how he saw it is secondary activity. But if you thought that today, procurement has gone from the clerical activity to a strategic activity, and we see that this support activity is no more clerical, but it's part of supply chain, we can infuse them into it. But unless the academic circle has admitted what we are saying.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, please, this Collins. Please, my question is, you said inbound is receiving raw materials. And I also want to know that receiving finished goods, isn't it considered as inbound too?
Okay, so inbound is all activities between the supplier and then focal firm, which is the manufacturing organization. Okay, and all activities from the manufacturing organization to other customers is the outbound. So most often the outbound or the inbound is of raw material stage. We have not converted them, but it can also be that parts or components that are received from the suppliers are also part of the finished goods that can receive from the suppliers. But here we are going to convert them into what? Finished goods. We are going to transform all the materials, components, and the parts into what? Finished goods. So the moment we convert them, it means we are now moving from manufacturing to what? The customer stage. So from manufacturing stage to the customer stage, all these activities are classified as what? Outbound. We are moving from manufacturing to what? Our customers. The inbound is where we are receiving the raw material from the suppliers into our production plant before we transform them. Okay, so there are distinct two things over here. All activities between the focal firm or the manufacturing firm and their suppliers is known as what? Inbound. And all activities from the focal firm to the customers is also known as what? Outbound, because the items that we have produced, we are not consuming them within the organization. We are also pushing them towards customers. So these activities are known as what? Outbound, because it is leaving the organization. So it's what? Outbound. And one from the supplier into the organization. So it's known as what? Inbound.
Okay, sir. The reason why I asked this question is that I work in a warehouse, and we have inbound and outbound book that we record all our inbound and outbounds. And anytime we the inbounds are finished goods that we receive. All the goods that comes in are inbound, and all the goods that are going out of the company is outbound. But the goods that we receive are all finished goods.
Okay, you take it in this way. Maybe the finished goods aspect is what is confusing you. So take it this way: all activity between the supplier to the focal firm is what? Inbound activities. And you take away the finished goods. Any activity from the organization to customers is what? Outbound activities, where most of the marketing or sales are also what? Involved. Okay, take it out.
Okay.
Do you know the difference between upstream suppliers and downstream suppliers?
Outstream
Have you heard
suppliers.
it?
No, I've
Upstream
not heard that.
and downstream.
Upstream.
You have not heard it before.
I've not heard that word.
Okay, so
No.
it is also the same as the inbound logistics and what? Outbound logistics.
Wow.
The upstream suppliers are all activities that happen between the suppliers and the focal organization. We call it upstream supply chain activity. And then from the manufacturer to the customers down there, we call it what? Downstream supply chain what? Activity. Okay, it's the same as the inbound logistics and what? Outbound logistics. But here,
Outbound
the distinct nature is that most often the items coming from suppliers are in a raw state. We are not going to produce them. Okay, so that's why I told you that we have two stores there: the raw material store, and then we have the finished goods store. Because when the goods are converted into finished goods, when the raw materials are converted into finished goods, we will not send them back to the raw material store. We separate that store from what? The finished goods store. Okay, meaning we are preparing them and distribute them to our customers. So activities from the supplier to the focal firm is inbound activity, and then from the organization to customers are outbound activity or outbound logistics. Okay.
All right, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Any other question? Any other question? Okay. If there's no any question, if there's no question, then it means I'll leave you here, and then we meet next week.